So welcome back, family and friends. Yes, this is still your favorite Eugene, Sir Eugene. Yes, Sir Eugene. So if you have not followed the handle, follow the handle and also like the video and also try to share. Try to share because the things that we share here they are very insightful and it will help you. So we said that we are going to hammer on the points. We are going to be detailed with the points that we share. So point number one: know what works for you. Yes, you have to know what works for you. So someone will say, how do I know what works for me? Like how they tell you discover your potential. No, don't worry yourself. It's not too much thinking. It's very simple. Knowing what works for you, because we have different background. Yeah, we have different backgrounds. So you can simply know what works for you by looking at just let's say if your family, that is your family, to talk of the people that you live with, the people that were looked into your upbringing, look at the kind of business that they were doing, that they were involved in, because that's the business that you can start with. So knowing what works for you, it might be it is either the business that you have been in it before. So if you have been in a business that is a business that your mom or your dad used to do, that is what will also work for you. So let's say I'm talking about the basics. Yes. So let's say if your mom is in the health sector, let's say a doctor or a nurse, probably you never assist him in doing taking, or let's say doing practicing that health work before. So I can't say that business work. But coming to the ground, let's say your mom used to sell something on the market, because one of the things to know is that in starting business you have to also know how to sell, because that's what basically works here in Ghana. So I've told you that you have to know. That's the next point I will go. So knowing what works for you. Works for you. First, look at the business that you've ever been in it before and it runs, and pay attention to those business. So that business might be something simple that maybe you started way back on campus, but it was running. So you know how profitable that business is already. You know how profitable it is already. So there is no need trying to figure out something. No. Just know that. Let's say on campus you used to do some graphic design for some people. Yes, that's what works for you. So you can just go into it. So point number one, you just have to know what has worked for you before. If not that, what works for the family, that is the kind of business. Let's say if the family is into their own business, what works for them. Because let's say if your mom runs provision shop, perhaps you have been in that provision shop before, so you know how that provision shop runs, you know how it runs, and you can also venture into that. So that's knowing what works for you. And the another thing is also that knowing what works for you, let me put it this way: knowing what works for you, aside the business, aside what has worked for you before, aside what has worked for the family. Maybe some of us, nothing has worked for us before, nothing has worked for the family before. So one of the other things to also do is that if you have an idea that you've never been in it before, find someone who is already doing it and engage yourself there. So you can just go there as a worker. Here we don't normally do volunteer work, but let's say if you have nothing, so because if you do volunteer work you are not going to be paid, but let's say if you have another stream of income, another source of income, you can just go into volunteer work. If not that, find somewhere the kind of business that you want to do, someone who is already doing it, go there, start working there, and you will know how that business works. By so doing, you'll be able to establish your own. Thank you.